Hello all. Good morning, good evening. Today, myself, Shweta Lakshman Rao, along with my colleagues Ranjini Swaminathan and Ramya Victor, will be presenting the session on demystifying cloud disaster recovery to build resilient environment. Next. Next. Okay, so today we'll start with the intro to disaster recovery, followed by DR as a service. Then we'll move on to see DR planning, types of DR, and factors to consider while choosing a DR service provider. We'll walk you through the DRaaS offerings provided across the industry. Finally, we'll have the DRaaS demo using VMware Hands-on Lab. Next. Well, what comes to your mind when I say disaster? These are the natural disasters that you may be thinking, right? But it's beyond that. Next. When we look from the technology perspective, disasters can come from any form, like natural disasters that we saw in the previous slide, ransomware attacks, equipment failures, and power outages. As per one of the research, more than 60% of the disaster occurs due to ransomware and power outages. Disaster is a nightmare for any IT organization, as the average cost of enterprise IT downtime is estimated to be close to $5,600 per minute. That's huge. Disaster recovery has become critical for every business. So, what is disaster recovery? Next. Disaster recovery is the organization's ability to recover IT after a disaster has occurred. Consider a scenario where all your IT infrastructure, including your production and backup servers, are hosted in your local premises. Hence, the data and the business applications are hosted on the local servers. What will happen if the entire area gets affected by a disruptive event like an earthquake or a ransomware attack? What is your plan to protect the critical business data then? So with this case, disaster recovery is the answer. It is basically the process of keeping the business running when your local premises is hit by a disaster. Disaster recovery can be considered as a subset of business continuity. So how does basically disaster recovery work? The workload from the local IT is replicated to the offsite server locations, which act as a IT infrastructure for your applications. When I say replication, it means the entire business process, including your data, applications, it will get mirrored to the redundant servers in real time. When you are affected by a disruptive event, say like an earthquake or a ransomware attack, then the access will be shifted to your recovery site. Next slide. Yes. So in this case, your local infrastructure has gone down. So the remote server will take over during the process of failover, and the offsite location will be called as the failover site. So that will take the access, and without having any kind of disruption or very minimal downtime, you will still be able to continue with your work. Next slide. When the after effects of the disaster have been dealt with, and when your local IT comes up to a normal working condition, the access will be restored with the process of failback. So let's see what is disaster recovery as a service. Next slide. Basically, disaster recovery as a service is a cloud computing service model that allows an organization to back up its data and IT infrastructure in a third-party computing environment and provides all the DR orchestration. All through a SaaS solution, we regain the access and functionality to IT infrastructure after a disaster. The as a service model means that the organization itself don't have to own the resources to handle all the management for the disaster recovery. Instead, they rely on the service provider. So basically, the disaster recovery as a service, with disaster recovery as a service, an organization's physical server or virtual machine are replicated to the third-party service provider to a third-party service provider, then the service provider hosts the customer's infrastructure using public or private cloud resources, providing a failover target in the event of a disaster. Based on the kind of service that you take from the provider, the provider will also provide services like managing the failover process, transitioning user from primary environment to the hosted environments, failback, migration of workloads, etc. Next slide. So let's see, like, how is on-prem DR different from a DRaaS? In the on-prem DR, on-site servers will allow for more control over your servers. It keeps company data private as no third party is associated. The data is accessible without internet. However, on-premise DR has disadvantages like the increased capital investment, limited scalability with the growth of organization, because now we know like how the organizations are growing. So it is like really challenging to predict like how much resource you need in the initial time itself. The need for the space to build and store the hardware, added cost for maintenance, management, and IT support. And there won't be any guaranteed uptime also when you have. And the data loss are most likely, especially during a disaster in a on-premise, because it depends on how far are you placing your recovery site. So let's see how the DRaaS is going to help us to overcome these challenges. With respect to DRaaS, you don't need a on-site hardware or a building. So that cost will be cut down. It is easy to scale as your business grows, and you pay as you use. It will be easy to connect from anywhere with any device as you are using the cloud. And backing up the data over the cloud can happen, say, for every 15 minutes as well. Now I'll hand over to Ranjini to explain DR plan and other areas. Over to you, Ranjini.
Thank you, Shweta. Hello, VM world. How's it going? It should be great, right? So I'm Ranjani Swaminathan, working as an engineering manager with VMware. Shweta made us understand what disaster recovery is and why we need DR. I'll give a gist of practical considerations involved in choosing DR provider and to understand the actual work involved during a disaster recovery. So this is the disaster recovery plan. There are some steps involved in planning the disaster recovery. The first step is to understand the infrastructure, application, and the software constructs involved in your applications. The second step is to outline any risks involved in the recovery. After outlining the risks, the third step is to analyze and understand the business impact due to unavailability of your application. The fourth step is to create a plan based on the recovery time objective and the recovery point objective. Recovery time objective is the time taken to recover from a disaster, and recovery point objective is how usable your application or infrastructure should be after the recovery. The next step is to select the actual disaster recovery provider. The next step is to build the disaster recovery infrastructure. When all these are done, we should document our plan, disaster recovery plan, and then have it in an accessible location. The next step is to test our plan frequently. As we know, DR is non-trivial event. It does not happen usually. So we should test the plan frequently to be sure that it works when a real disaster happens. Next slide. Yeah, the next slide is about the different types of disaster recovery as a service. So these are the key differentiators for disaster recovery as a service. So the differentiators are: what is the time taken for recovery? What is the cost involved in recovery? The resources or expertise available at the customer site, and the testing and validation efforts that are involved. Next slide, please. Based on these factors, we differentiate disaster recovery as a service into three types named managed DRaaS, assisted DRaaS, and self-service DRaaS. What is managed DRaaS? So this managed DRaaS is where planning, testing, and managing the DR is done by the provider completely. And the third-party provider gives a guaranteed solution during disaster. There is little or no effort from the customer side, the IT staffs of the customer side at all. You can get all these services, but the cost is a bit expensive. The second approach is assisted DRaaS, where the provider does not handle all the tasks. They help with experts wherever needed. For instance, consider a highly customized application with unique needs. It would be difficult to explain it to a service provider. In such cases, the expertise of the providers will help in optimizing the disaster recovery procedure, and administrative burden of managing the solution is lower than in a traditional DRaaS deployment. The third is the self-service DRaaS. Here, the customer has internal expertise and bandwidth to create own recovery strategy. What do organizations need to do self-service DRaaS? They need extensive in-house expertise, proper program management capabilities to plan, deploy, and execute a DRaaS strategy, thorough understanding of their own IT landscape, application, and services, knowledge of the relationship with assets such as storage, compute, networking, and the interdependencies between them. So this is the least expensive of all, as all the tasks are taken by the customer itself. Next slide. So DRaaS providers provide not only software and cloud platform, they also provide services to assist the customers during the implementation of the failover. There are some factors that need to be considered before selecting the DRaaS provider. So the services provided by the recovery provider may be ranging from simple data recovery for administrators and selective recovery from within the service provider's data center. It may also be virtual machine mounting, converting physical to VM within the service provider's data center for temporary application availability, or it may be a full-fledged disaster recovery in the service provider's data center, including optional services such as VM mounting, VPN rerouting, domain name system updating, virtual desktop infrastructure access to data for the end users, and physical access to administrators. Don't assume that your DRaaS provider will cover all disasters and deliver all possible services. Disaster recovery requirement varies with organizations. It may mean zero downtime and zero loss of data for some organizations, and it may mean some defined period of downtime and loss of some data for other organizations. It may vary by application, workload, and so on. There are many types of disasters for which we are protecting against, like hardware failure, human failure, malware, natural disasters, and terrorism. The budget is the final constraint. There is an old rule, golden rule of 90 to 10, where the last 10% of recovery time objective and the recovery point objective represents as much as 90% of the cost. So whenever we are closer to the recovery time objective and recovery point objective, that is where the cost goes up. With all these considerations, there are several questions that we must ask before selecting the disaster recovery provider. The first is considering the resources available at the provider side. What percentage of service provider customers can be supported concurrently during a disaster? What happens when the vendor cannot provide DR services? What are the rules for declaring a disaster? What happens to those who cannot be serviced? So these are some of the considerations with the provider's resources. The next is considering the end user access, which is facilitated by the provider. Some of the questions are, how can we access the internal applications in a crisis, and what will be the status of VPNs? Will they be managed or will they be rerouted? And when the when using the VDI, we should find out how it affects the end users and who will be managing it during the disaster. With outward facing applications, we should ask the customers and partners and users how they will access the applications. Will the DNS nodes be updated for the outward facing applications? Along with this, the administrators should also have access to the servers and applications whenever necessary. So these are some of the questions that we should consider during end user access. Next slide. So the assistance provided by provided to the customer is also something that we need to consider and be clarified before we choose the provider. So these are some of the questions regarding the assistance. When you evaluate the providers, you should ask about the standard processes they have and what assistance they will provide. What are the procedures for failback? What professional services or skills that are available in the service provider to facilitate the disaster recovery? How much do they cost? And how much help can be expected during the event of a disaster? For example, if your organization prefers to perform these testings internally, we should let the provider know and find out if there is an option to do that. And we should also find out how long your workload can run in the service provider's data center in the event of a disaster, and when it is probable to declare to the end user that the services are up and running. So we should have enough time to recover. We need to make sure of these considerations. The last is the cost. Next slide. So there are basic costs and there are advanced costs. So whenever we are availing additional services, the cost can go up so soon. So what are the costs associated with DRaaS options? Are they a la carte? Are they bundled? Or are they priced upfront? Is there a mix? All these things needs to be clarified before selecting the disaster recovery provider. So these are the considerations that we should make before selecting the disaster recovery provider. With this, I'll hand it over to Ramya to look into the various market providers available. Thank you.
Thanks, Ranjini. So hi all, hope you're having fun in VMworld. So my name is Ramya Victor. I'm working as a senior MTS at VMware. So today we saw what Shweta and Ranjini spoke about what is DRaaS and what are the major steps that are confined to DRaaS, right? And what are the key considerations that one has to consider when you're opting for DRaaS. So having spoke about DRaaS for so long, let us exactly see what is being offered by the industry. So Shweta, you want to share the screen? Yeah. Okay. So we have seen that all of a sudden, because of the current situation of the pandemic, enterprises have started evaluating the disaster recovery options, specifically on public clouds, that is like AWS, Microsoft Azure, GCP, and others, due to the adoption of public cloud resources as employees have shifted to remote work. So why this service is being predominantly used in cloud is that it offers the biggest benefit, that is infrastructure as a service. Why? Because this infrastructure as a service cuts the cost of standby hardware by replacing it with an on-demand cloud resources. Like how Shweta said, in on-premise, you have to calculate the infrastructure in advance, but in cloud, it's more of an on-demand cloud resources. So this clearly implies that the foundation of disaster recovery as a service is the cloud infrastructure. Next slide. So we all are in VMworld, right? So isn't it the right thing to know what VMware has to offer when it comes to DRaaS, right? So let's look what VMware has to offer to you in terms of DRaaS. So VMware provides DRaaS through the acquisition of Datrium. So it provides an easy to use cloud-based solution that combines efficient cloud storage with simple SaaS-based environment and management through IT resiliency at scale. So having said all this, right, what are the benefits of using this? So the benefits are pretty straightforward. It is very consistent, and the customers have the familiarity with VMware operations across the production and DR side. And it is, as I said, right, it is just a pay when you need failover capacity model for the DR resources, and the instant power on capability for the fast recovery. So these are the key benefits that you get when you use the service provided through VMware. So next slide. So why should you opt for VMware DRaaS, right? So some of the key points that you can note is that it is an on-demand service, it is easy to use, and it provides cloud economics. So let's dwell deeper into what exactly it means. So when we say on demand, we say that it's an instant power on without the need for the VM conversions, which provides a faster recovery, right? And when we say it is easy to use, because it is a consistent VMware operation, it offers continuous health check, and it also provides automated audit reports, which are very easy for the customers to understand and infer. So it is very easy to use. So when we say it offers cloud economics, what are we talking about? We are basically talking about the cost efficient cloud storage with pay when capacity needed model. So this is converted into cloud economics, which is easy for the customer and very friendly in the budget aspect, right? So along with that, VMware Cloud Disaster Recovery, VMware Site Recovery, and VMware Site Recovery Manager, that is also known as SRM. These are other multiple offerings that is provided by VMware to meet the organization's DR needs. So the customer can either use one of this service, or they can use all of them, or they can use several of them concurrently to confidently recover from the various disaster events, like how Shweta and Ranjini covered. Next slide. So having spoke about what VMware has to offer, let us see what are the other industry giants who speak about the various services that they offer in terms of the disaster recovery as a service. So before I dwell into deeper about what are the giants providing the services, I would like to tell you that these are our understanding based on our experience with the DRaaS. So it is not like these are the only offerings that they provide. There might be various relevant developments that might be offered by these giants, but these are the well-known disaster recovery options that these well-known service providers provide for us. So it's a learning experience. Hope this gives you a broader spectrum on what AWS, GCP, and Azure has to offer. So next slide. So as I said, right, when we are talking about the industry giants, which is predominantly dominated by AWS, GCP, and Azure, let's look each one of them and see what they have to offer when it comes to disaster recovery as a service. So first, let us see AWS. So the AWS cloud-based disaster recovery and workload migration offering is provided through Cloud Endura DR. So this Cloud Endura DR can replicate the workloads from your on-premises or other infrastructure as a service environments to the AWS or even between the AWS regions. So that is an interesting aspect. Next slide. So why should you use AWS DRS, right? So it provides some of the benefits, like there is a continuous data replication, which is low cost, using only enough AWS compute and storage resources to support the data replication. And another thing is it has an automated machine conversion from the native format to a supported AWS instance and image, which is easy to use for the customer. And thirdly, there is a support for popular enterprise softwares, operating system, and cloud environments, including the giants like Azure, GCP, IBM Cloud, Oracle Cloud, and even OpenStack, and even VMware products. So isn't that useful for customers? Because there is separate for various software, you don't have to worry about the compatibility issue, right? And last but not the least, the point-in-time recovery, that is the ability to recover either the most current application state or some prior time data, and having a non-disruptive DR testing ability to be enabled is also an add-on feature in the AWS DRS. So these are the key points that are of key interest if you are looking for the AWS DRS. So next slide. So having got a brief view on what AWS has to offer to us, let's look at Azure, right? We shouldn't miss out on what each of them are providing to us. So in the Azure Site Recovery, the offering is provided through a product called Azure Site Recovery. So it provides it through the acquisition it done way back in 2014. So this service is used to protect both your physical and virtual Windows or Linux workload outside your primary data center, and even if it's on its traditional backup system. So it provides the facility to protect your workloads both on your primary data center as well as the traditional on-prem backup system. So during the Azure Site Recovery setup process, you can choose either Azure or any other data center for your replication target. So you have the flexibility to choose between the various offerings over there. So in case of disaster, what exactly happens is your apps can continue to operate in the Azure cloud to minimize the downtime. So the Azure Site Recovery also supports the cloud failover of both VMware and Hyper-V virtual infrastructure. So the good point to note here is you have support for the VMware products, both in Azure as well as AWS. So that is a add-on provided you are already having the VMware products running in your infrastructure, right? So next slide. So now we know that what are the offerings provided by Azure. So why should you go for Azure DRS, right? So basically it protects your physical and virtual window or Linux workloads, right? So along with that, it also provides you some of the key features like on-demand creation of VMware in VM instances during recovery. And it provides a non-disruptive DR testing. It also enables us to have a customized target for recovery point objectives, like how Ranjini said, that is one of the critical steps when you are opting for the disaster recovery as a service, right? So we can customize the targets here in our recovery point objectives, and we can also have this recovery time objectives pre-planned. And another interesting point is that the customized recovery plans and runbook that can use Azure automation or PowerShell script for complex scenarios. So you don't have to have the manual intervention here. Rather, you can use the automation that Azure provides through the PowerShell script so that you can handle the complex scenarios. Next slide. So since we spoke about AWS and Azure, we can definitely not miss out on knowing what GCP has to offer for us, right? So the Google Cloud does not offer a package DRS per se, right? Instead, what they offer is really interesting. It provides a documentation on the cloud-based disaster recovery planning and how that can be used leveraging the existing GCP services as a DR platform. So Google offers many products that can be used as a building block when creating a secure and reliable DR plan, including the cloud DNS, cloud storage, and compute engine. So the plus point of they providing the DR platform rather than providing the package DRS is that they have a strong collaboration with partners such as Veeam, Actifio, and Zerto that offer disaster recovery capabilities over their platform. So they have leveraged their partnership in order to provide the disaster recovery as a service. So that is an interesting aspect about GCP. Next slide. So when we spoke like what exactly GCP has to offer, so what are the key considerations? Why should you opt for their kind of disaster recovery service over their platform, right? So GCP services that are useful because they provide you a DIY process, like do it yourself DRS process. So when you use GCP's do it yourself DR process, right, there are certain benefits associated with them. So what are those benefits? So those benefits can be categorized into 3 sections. So the first one is the cloud monitoring and the cloud status dashboard for all your application monitoring metrics and events is provided by the GCP for the underlying DR service that you are using. And it also provides a deployment manager so that you can automatically create the GCP environment from the predefined templates that GCP has to offer. And the third thing is the third-party infrastructure templating and configuration management softwares with GCP, such as Ansible, Chef, and Terraform, can be easily used when you use your DR service provided by the Google Cloud Platform. So based on this third party providing services, additional benefits can be obtained, right? Not just the benefits of GCP, but the benefits of the partners who are providing DRS service on the GCP platform can also be obtained. So it's multiple benefits in just one shot. So that's interesting, isn't it? So having spoke about all this, right? I would also like to state the point that as per the latest Forrester reports, right, the leaders in the DRAS market include several other vendors like SunGuard, Island, IBM, Nscale, Verizon, and Ancient. So there are multiple other vendors in this particular domain. So it is not confined just to VMware or AWS or GCP or Azure, but these are some of the well-known trusted services that people can explore. So hope you got a brief overview on what is there to be offered by the industry. So let's now dwell deeper into a hands-on lab on what VMware has to offer for you in terms of DRAS. So Shweta, over to you.
Thank you, Ramya. Considering the time, I have actually recorded the overall VMware Hands-on Lab. Most of you may be aware of VMware Hands-on Lab. So this is a platform which will help you to understand different technologies, and it is available at free of cost 24/7. So there are about 200 plus labs which you can explore. For this purpose of VMware Cloud Disaster Recovery as a Service, I have used this particular lab. So without wasting much time, let's get started. So as I mentioned, I'm using this particular lab. Okay, I'm not.
You're not
Are you
sharing.
able to see? One sec. How about now? Are you able to see the screen?
Yeah.
Okay, yeah, sounds good. Okay, so basically this lab take about 90 minutes, but then I'll just walk you through the major things that you have to keep in mind so that you know like how to dwell into this lab and get the basic understanding of this DRAS as a DR as a service through VMware Hands-on Lab. So basically the first module consists of the hands-on lab consists of basically 5 modules. The first module is about creating a protected site. So when I say the protected site, it means your on-premise infrastructure. So there will be protected site and the recovery site. So now let us look into how to create a protected site. So basically in this module, we are going to create the site. So we are providing the configuration information. That is the site name. And we are creating the site. After this, we are going to create the connector. So we are providing the connector information here in the next step. Once the connector is created, we'll bring up the connector and we'll register the connector appliance. Once the registration of the connector appliance is completed, we are going to register our vCenter to the protected site. So this is the information we are providing. So this is what you will explore in module 1. The module 2 is about creation of the protection groups. Basically, protection group is the creation of the policies, which will include like how many virtual machines are to be protected, what should be the frequency of the what should be the frequency, and all these kind of policies will be configured during this time. Multiple protection groups can also be created. So I'm skipping on module 2 so that we can wrap as we are exceeding time. So module 3 is about the DR plans. As Ranjini was mentioning about it, right? We will define the DR plan. So this is the phase we will be defining the DR plan by providing all the information, by providing the information. As you see on the left side, you can see the information that we are going to provide, the worker VMs, the desktop, the map folders, all these in configuration information will be provided in the third module, and this DR plan will be the one which you are going to use for your DR test, or whenever a disaster happens, the recovery will be using this particular DR plan. I'm skipping the DR test because I'll be showing the execution of the DR plan, which is similar to the test. In the test, you will just try to run it several times to ensure when actually the DR happens, you are ensuring things are working, right? So I'm moving to module 5, which is about the execution. So here we are providing the inputs for executing a DR plan. So we'll provide the information. We are cross-checking all the information, the snapshots information. Next. And here we'll give the confirmation of the failover. And we see the failover has started. And here you will be able to see that the failover has completed. As you see here, we have to commit here. So the failover has completed, and a report will be generated, which will give you the overall information of what all happened during the failover, the mappings, and if there are any issues that will be addressed. So this is the demo that we have from the VMware Hands-on Lab for Disaster Recovery as a Service. This is what we had for today. Thank you all.